Single leg circles in 4 steps. Here's number 1. This exercise has a lot to do with hip stabilization, so let's get right into it. Hold the weight of your leg with your palms as you circle so that you can feel where the movement is coming from. Feel your femur bone making smooth circles inside your hip socket. Movement of the leg can easily influence movement of the pelvis like this. So in our single leg circles, we are aiming for dynamic hip stabilization. The next prep exercise, your shins are in tabletop position and hands are grounded. Here, we're using our hip stabilizers so your lowest and deepest belly muscles are scooping down towards the mat and up towards your throat. Heels press down into the mat to activate your hamstrings and glutes. We can go ahead and switch. You can also try a bent leg for the supporting foot. This should be easier because the lever of your leg is not long, and so you can really focus on stabilizing your hips as you stir your femur bone inside the hip socket. Now we lengthen the lever of the leg, so it's a little bit more challenging. You have to manage the entire leg. The source of movement is still coming from the hip joint. And you're hugging that bent leg into you actively. Oops, there's my cat. And here's where I get mad at him. And we continue. Your strong palms hugging your leg in helps you be more sensitive about what's going on in your hips so that you can catch any rocking back and forth or side to side of your hip, which helps you stabilize your hip even more. And so the circles here are very small, really focusing on what's happening inside your hip socket, making smooth circles at your hip joint. The fourth and last exercise to help you understand dynamic hip stabilization in your body is called the tick-tocks. These are actually split-second movements that occur as you circle your legs. So here, as you take your leg away from your belly and then back towards your midline, we need to make sure that there's a continuous support from your low belly and psoas. In tick-tock number 2, you start to take your heel towards the mat, really reaching your leg long, and then back up towards you, making it a big psoas squeeze. Now here I'm exaggerating a serious anterior hip tilt to show how the leg can take the hip with it in its direction. So right now I'm using my hands to help my low belly work so that my leg could move freely without the hip being influenced by its movements. Okay, so now graduating up a step, step number 2, your left leg is bent, right leg is straight, and we're doing some internal and external rotation. You're going to stay in external rotation up in your hip socket, and we're going to start to take circles crossing the body and coming back around. It's 5 in one direction, and then you reverse 5 in the other direction. The breath is inhale for half of the circle, exhale for the last half, and you reverse. The bent supporting leg gives a more direct foot to hip connection so that your hip could be stabilized much easier than if your leg were to be along the mat and straight. So here we are adding all of it together and now straightening the leg all the way, which is pretty challenging because that heel needs to be pressing the mat away to turn on the hamstrings into the glute so that the hip could have more support. The circle can start small as you inhale and exhale. Then when you feel more strong and confident in your leg to belly connection, you can start to make your circles bigger. We never want to be stuck in perfection, but we do want to support and be safe in vulnerable places like the low spine. Here is the most advanced version so you know where you're headed in your practice. The difference here is that you pick up your hip to draw a bigger circle and helicopter your leg out long and wide, and then sweeping back to center, setting your hip down. So each step along the way from the beginning of this video helped us come to a place where now we can pick up the hip intentionally from a supported place. I always recommend taking a Pilates private or class so that you get to experience the correct guidance, especially when it comes to advanced movements, so that you don't accidentally injure yourself or perform any contraindications from your doctor. If you're ever in doubt, please consult your physician first, and I'm always happy to answer any questions. Comment below or shoot me an email. I'll see you next time.